my face.
Hey folks, welcome back to another podcast with Tampa Florida Living. I was doing some research for my upcoming video here, and it's all about the migration patterns, about how many people are moving into Tampa. Over 1,000 people a day are coming to Florida and about 150 to Tampa. So, it's over 250,000 that came in the last year. And that's really pumping up our numbers here. So we're seeing that influx of people, that migration to Tampa and Florida. And we're also seeing the out pattern. We're seeing people leaving for a handful of reasons: cost of living, housing issues, insurance, you name it. But it's not as really bad as it seems. And I found that out. But doing that research, we touched on 3 topics that I want to talk about today: affordable housing, we're talking about new properties and new developments coming on the market. And then, of course, where are they leaving to, and what are some of those housing options for those of them, maybe leaving the city? And I'm going to tell you, they're going to the suburbs. That's a real easy answer, but we are going to discuss that, the pros, the cons, and the ugly. So I've got Lennon Gonzalez here, who's one of the agents on my team. Let's just jump right into it. The first article that I came across that I thought was really interesting is the cities diving into the density issues, right? All those people moving here, kind of settling in. We're seeing that the lifestyle here and the day-to-day is just a little bit busier. Tampa kind of always had that like low, slow-paced Florida living. And you and I know that because we both grew up here. I've known you for 20 years here.
The way that I always saw it is that Tampa is like the biggest, smallest city that I've ever lived in, and it's really cool. And now with the influx of people coming in, people are kind of like, hey, the traffic is getting bad and all that. Where we're going to put all these people, but I think that Tampa is actually maturing now and it's growing.
Yep. And
we kind of need those, those developments to take hold so that we can just keep growing at a nice pace and make room for it as time goes on.
Yeah, and so. The issues is that you ask anybody and it's like, hey, Florida's full, go away, right? And it's just because they like that slow pace. But on the other side of that coin, there's a ton of people appreciating those new developments. They love everything that's going on. But the article that really stood out to me was the ADU properties. For anybody that doesn't know what an ADU property, it's an accessory dwelling. So it's kind of like that mother-in-law suite or that detached unit in the back of your property, right? Tampa, it's pretty much zoned residential, right? Everything is residential everywhere from the middle of the city on outwards. And so that's beautiful. The problem is that it's not zoned for multifamily or like a ton of townhomes and things like that.
No, and I think that that's going to bring in, a lot of opportunities for a lot of people who would like to live in the city and who normally cannot afford to live in the city to be able to live in the city and take advantage of all the things that Tampa has to offer.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they're thinking about, what's going on with that article is that the city's trying to push to help with rezoning so that you can build a detached house, things like that, a mother-in-law suite, whatever you want to call it, on your own property. But they're being very strategic with it, right?
Right.
They're basically saying that you have to live on the property to have this. It's not for everybody just to have cheap Airbnbs everywhere.
Right.
You can rent it out, right? But I think it helps because now it's like we have so many residential areas. Like think of West Tampa, Ybor, we've got South Tampa. I mean, even kind of spreading up to North Tail. Well, I think those HOA communities are going to be a little bit different. I think they're kind of focusing in on the middle of the city because you can't build any more land there.
Right.
But it's going to help with affordable housing. That's really their idea there is. I mean, if you think about it, you have an efficiency in your backyard and you want to rent it out to somebody.
Yeah.
Specifically, like I have a cousin right now, she's a sweetheart, but she's at that age, right? Where basically her dad's like.
But she can't afford to live her own, but you don't want to live in the house. So you've had this little ADU in the back, which has your own little space.
Well, it's transitioning out of college.
Right.
Right now, rent is crazy here. Like rent's gone up. And I think the requirements for a lot of places, if you got to make 3 times the monthly income of your rent. So if you're, let's just say your rent's $2,000 a month, you got to make $6,000 a month and have good credit and have this and that. Sometimes, especially starting off, you may not be that lucky, right?
Well, if you're a young guy too, or a young professional, having that 3 times the amount of the rent could be kind of difficult.
Yeah.
And not only that, for an older person, maybe your mother or an older relative who wants to live with you cannot afford to live on their own. I think it's a perfect opportunity for them to be able to not even live close, but live in the city of Tampa.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that scenario right there, though, would have been perfect for my cousin, right? It's like, hey, we've $1,000 a month or $1,500 a month. And by the way, I'm the landlord because it's my property and I can rent it out to you and no problem, right?
One of the good things is that also, I think the ADUs also have like their own utilities. So they're able to do that on their own. So you don't have to take care of all those bills, but they also have a break on the rent, and be able to take over their own utilities and stuff like that.
True. It's funny, folks, like Lennon and I, we go way back, Tampa, 20 plus years. And so what's funny is, we both honestly at one point in our lives, our younger years, were in like the hospitality business. And I started thinking about that. I had 3 jobs. And we were hustling, right?
Selling cell phones,
whatever we had to do, working at the gym, working at the bank. But that would have been a perfect scenario in those younger years to have an option like this, where it's like maybe 2 of us, maybe you have a house or I had a house, and now we have a rental property for a buddy of ours or a friend or whatever that is. But that does help out the hospitality business in Tampa, because we're big on hospitality. We've got young nurses, big medical sector. We've got people that are growing into, young professionals that are growing into these roles, but may not have the means to go and spend $2,500 to $3,000 a month because, hey, they don't make $9,000 a month.
Or it also gives the opportunity to not have to live with 6 other roommates, which is one of the things that keeps people from moving out of the house too.
Yes. So in a way, I really like this direction we're headed to, where we're exploring options for the rezoning. I'll bet, limited. They're not just opening up to everybody. And what I mean by that is, you were telling me about from the article, you were telling me that it's not just for anybody.
No.
Right? There's limitations there. What are some of those limitations?
I think 2 people who are not related to you can live in the ADU, or relatives.
Okay.
And they don't really want it to be like a short-term rental kind of thing. They want it to be, because they don't want a whole bunch of Airbnbs all over the place, because that's really going to disrupt the flow of the city.
Yeah.
And one of the other things is that they also want to keep the continuity of what the little part of that town that you live in looks like. So you can't, have a house that looks a certain way and then build the ADU that's completely out of the normal.
A sky rise in your backyard.
Right.
They also want to make sure that you're living on the property.
Correct.
And so, guys, this is surface level at this point. We don't know the details. I think somebody had mentioned to me at one point, it's like, oh, that's great and all, but what if you have to leave? Do you have to sell the property now? What does that look like? So there's going to be question marks, clearly. The idea here is that there's going to be options for other folks that are affordable options. And I like that. And it's something that we can create new, right?
Yes.
It's not like you have to be in an apartment building. It's like, hey, you could be in Hyde Park, or you could be in maybe some of these areas that are not rezoned. I think West Tampa is a great location, center of the city, right next to the stadium and everything else. That'd be a great place to start that. We do have some of that in Seminole Heights, right? As well as St. Pete is zoned that way for a lot of different reasons. I have a buddy that used to do that with the VA.
Right.
He'd create an accessory property, just single units, and it worked really well for those old timer VA guys, right? That need to get to the hospital and need to live close. But I'd say the last benefit I saw with an ADU property that I was thinking of is the influx of people moving here. As the costs have risen on homes and everything, really, inflation, you're starting to see multi-generational living. You're starting to see families that are saying, hey, my mother-in-law is coming with me, or my in-laws are coming with me. We're all going to live in the same unit, so we need a bigger house. This could present an option where, some families kind of always want that compound, and they want it to where they have young kids and the parents might be retired and they want to live on property to help them so that they can start their careers. It just presents another option.
And also for like the older parents who are like kind of on a fixed income, it gives them the ability to kind of afford to live in the city of Tampa, and and not be priced out and have to live 30, 45 minutes away from from the city itself, and they can afford to live there. Yeah,
and to be fair, if you go really on the elderly side, sometimes they need care. It could be a great thing to put them there versus like a nursing home. Maybe figure that scenario out. I've seen that with a lot of people. That having that option. There's so many different reasons, so many different ways you can use this. I mean, hey, it could just be a straight rental.
One of the things that I was thinking about, I'm sorry to cut you off, is, a lot of the jobs are in the Tampa Bay area, and for someone, the young professional, like you said, who works in hospitality, or all the jobs, most of the jobs are in the Tampa Bay area, and you don't want to live 30, 45 minutes away from that job to be able to travel all the way back in. So it gives you the opportunity to have a job in the Tampa Bay area and also live in the Tampa Bay area.
Yep. And so those are kind of some of the pros, right? Some of the cons that I think could come up is that, hey, we're now transportation. We're encouraging density in the city. We're increasing that density. So I would assume, or I would hope that they would limit that to some level. However, density is becoming an issue. Traffic, right? Having more traffic because we have more people being attracted to the city and coming into the city and wanting to be here. Not only locals, but tourists, because let's just face it, Tampa was never really on the map over, I'd say, since COVID. It's like, hey, we got the number 1 or number 2 river walk in the country back-to-back years. That's just bringing a ton of people in. All the new attractions that are coming up, the new developments. It's no longer they're flying into Tampa and heading to the beach.
No.
That happens. Now it's like, hey, let's explore Tampa. This is a fun city.
It's funny you say that, because before COVID, I think Tampa was like the biggest open secret there was.
Yeah.
People know Miami, people know Orlando, but Tampa was really not a destination that people were like, oh, I want to go to Tampa. But since then, I think Tampa is really grown.
Yeah, and being that it's all residential, we share our city with tourists all the time, and we do the same thing that tourists do. But as it becomes more crowded, it's like, man, I can't just get into my favorite restaurant. Like, you might need to think about a reservation, or maybe those kind of things happen. So those are the growing pains of a city. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, those moans are going to come from locals that enjoy the city at a slower pace.
Well, change is hard,
I do miss some of those old things, but I'm also embracing the new. That being said, new developments are like the hottest thing in Tampa right now, right? We never really had walkability.
No.
Our downtown was a ghost town after 5 p.m. because professionals would go there work and they would leave.
It's funny you say that, because for the longest time, I'm thinking like early 2000s, there is no walkability. Either you drive and you have to drive back, but you can't really walk the streets. And I think the new development are encouraging that walkability, that to be able to ride your bike, and kind of walk from one destination to another, have to jump in your car and have to drive to a restaurant. Now you can walk to the restaurant, walk to the park, see the attractions, go to Channel Side and all that.
Well, I think that's why the Riverwalk was so popular, because it's 2.5 miles. And this was actually planned. I don't know if you know this. Riverwalk was actually planned in the 70s.
Really?
But they didn't have the budget, and then they just never put it together. They started it and they never put it together. But essentially, if you think about it, it's the Strass Center. It's Armature Works didn't exist back then, but now it does. So it's like Armature Works, it's restaurants. There's a history trail along the way of things that happen. You have sites of UT. It goes all the way into Curtis Hickson and then downtown and then over to the Channel Side area. So really what it is it's just a way to make all of our biggest attractions, and they connected them all with 2.5 miles by a boardwalk. And of course we have water views, so that's kind of pretty. But with that being said, now it's like, hey, this is the center of the city. This is what's happening right now. It's not for me, it's a safe area. Mm-hmm. I'm going to call it that. I go out with my wife at 10 o'clock at night. I take my kids and we have no issues. And there's concerts every weekend or Sunday markets or something going on. So it's really a hot commodity. That being said, we created walkability here and we're doing our best. I think the city is starting to realize that we're getting more parks, Julian B. Lane Park. They're creating these spaces now for locals, for residents that live here to enjoy the outdoors even more.
And enjoy the weather.
Yeah. Midtown became a thing, right?
Midtown is awesome.
I don't want to call it West Tampa because I know I'll get some kickback there, but it makes sense to call it Midtown, because if you're not from here, you say West Tampa. Right. West Tampa is right in the middle of the city. So they're definitely not rebranding West Tampa, but I think it makes sense for other people to say, hey, that's Midtown, Mid-Tampa. Right. So Midtown development, the idea was it's a city within a city.
It is.
They have apartments there. They have a hotel there.
They have restaurants there.
Restaurants,
shops,
grocery store downstairs, the Whole Foods. So it's really nice to just, honestly, you have to drive there and park.
Right.
But once you get there, you could spend a half a day there just walking around, go to the sports bar.
You could spend the whole day there and walk all over the place. They have different things to do, which is actually really cool.
Yep. So the next development kind of came on. Obviously, Channel Side got revamped. That went downhill a few years back or a decade ago. Now they brought it back as Sparkman's Wharf.
That is amazing.
On the southern side of the Riverwalk.
And it's very family friendly, which I like.
Yes.
You go out on a Saturday, you see families and their kids and riding their bikes, and you're right there by the cruise ships, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's a destination area too, if you want to go and spend the weekend there, Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah. And then off of that, we had Jeff Vinnick, owner of the Lightning, basically invest with Bill Gates, and they came and just created this monstrosity of Water Street, which is basically connecting Channel Side, downtown, all that area, Michelin star restaurants, just my wife and I just
restaurants
crawl right all through there. The Florida Aquarium's on one side, the Amalie Arena where the Lightning play and concerts on the other side. So that whole downtown now is vibrant.
Has exploded.
It's alive. I was down there the other night with my wife, and it was just funny. We were like walking around and going, man, it literally feels like we're in a different city.
It does
right now, and in a good way too, not like a bad way. It was like, wow, we are in a like this place is new
and it's beautiful.
Yeah. So what I like to say though is that all of these new developments are popping up. We've got the West Shore Mall, which was a big anchor. It was one of our biggest malls, as far as I can remember.
It's been around since the 60s.
Yeah. And so they're looking to demolish that, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing.
Some are going to agree with you. Some may not. For those of us that remember West Shore Mall and that maybe live in West Shore District, we're like, wait a minute, that's amazing. I love West Shore Mall. But I think you brought up a good point, man. A lot of people just go there to walk. They're not.
And I think since in the inception of the International Mall,
yes,
it's been a slow decline for the West Shore Mall, and and it is. People, they use that as a place to go exercise.
Yeah,
and I think that revamping that whole area and putting more shops is going to bring more life into the city, and it's going to bring mixed use. Developments.
Very similar to what we're seeing with Armature Works,
Correct.
What we're seeing with Midtown, that new concept where it's like work, live, play.
Mm-hmm.
You have co-working spaces, apartments, you have
activities,
restaurants and things like that. It's going to be I think it would be a great upgrade from the current West Shore Mall because we have the International Mall right down the street.
Right.
I actually like it.
I do too.
I didn't dive into what are the repercussions, I guess. Sometimes locals don't love those concepts, those new concepts, but they also haven't let them live out. So it depends. If they're only going to put a high rise there, it doesn't make sense for me.
No.
If they're going to revamp it and make that another walkable hotspot for locals, especially so close to the interstate and all that, I think it's a great option.
Plus,
yep,
West Shore right now it's just there's nothing going on. It's just a ghost town, and I think that by revamping that and giving it more life, it's going to give it a better use for that area, for that property.
Now, one that's getting a little bit of pushback, or two. So we've got new developments, or we talked about things that are already here in place and how that's changed and what our experiences are. But there's a couple permits out there right now. That West Shore one's in discussion. I think the University Mall at one point, that's still going through some things and what that's going to be for that area, the Temple Terrace area, which is huge. But the two newest ones is going to be Britton Plaza, if you're familiar with that, down in South Tampa. And then the other one's going to be the YMCA over by the Heights area, right?
And again,
and that's huge.
Britton Plaza was built in the 1950s, 1959.
The hottest thing there was Steinmart.
Yeah,
was it Burlington Coat Factory? There's a Publix there that I think was revamped recently, but outside of that, it's a dead plaza. So let's talk about the good and the bad with that one real quick. The good is that I think they're gonna just do exactly what they did with Midtown or one of those developments. They're gonna put shops, restaurants, and things like that. Part of that though is there may be 100 or 200 units for living. And that's where the con comes. People love the idea that there's restaurants and all that. It will be great for the locals. It will attract more, but the problem is it attracts more people to the area. And if you have another couple hundred people living there,
people are worried about the traffic congestion.
And traffic's already a little bit bad because remember, we're going more South Tampa. You don't have so many roads to take you out of South Tampa. It's now more of a, you got the Air Force base anchoring you down there. So there's not a lot of exits out of there like there would be at West Shore where you're on the interstate, right?
Yeah, but in reality, it's going to give it a kind of a fresh coat of paint, modernize the area, give it a new life.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to, I'm playing devil's advocate here, giving you both sides of the coin. I know that there's a lot of locals pushing back a little bit in that area specifically, because we've been here for years.
Right.
We came here because it was maybe quieter or this or that. Maybe it's a historic district or whatever that may be. Why do we want this new shiny object? So some people will embrace it and will love it. Other people will say, wait a minute, I don't know if I want this. And again, this is stuff that I discovered while researching my video that's coming up for you folks. So make sure to check out my channel on Sunday, or actually next Sunday. But it's going to be, it was basically that, hey, people are coming here and some are leaving.
Right.
Why are they leaving? Affordability issues, housing.
Big one is affordability. And
then sometimes it's like traffic or whatever. And they're saying, well, let me go to Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, somewhere nearby where it's a little bit slower, So, but we won't go into that. That's for that latter discussion in my next video. But yeah, to that point, Britton Plaza, that's getting revamped. And then the other one, like I said, historic issues is the YMCA. I mean, that's a massive development.
Amazing. Yes.
They're going to keep the YMCA. They're going to do a walkover of, what do you call it? Like a catwalk.
Right.
Over Florida Avenue to another massive building. I think they said,
Isn't that going to connect like Ybor and Channelside area, kind of put it together?
well, you're thinking Gasworks.
Right.
Yeah, Gasworks. I'm talking about the YMCA down there
That's
by
right.
kind of the Ybor Heights area, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, Gasworks is another one. That's just a whole nother ballgame. I mean, that's billions of dollars there.
And it's going to use a lot of that residents that are right now are vacant and not being
Yes.
used. And it's going to put, you know, like I said, again, best use of the property and revamp it a little bit, because right now that's just a dead area.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, folks, really what I'm trying to get to is that Tampa's growing, right? We got new developments, a lot of new shiny objects. From what I've seen so far, it's fun. It makes it exciting. It's no longer like, hey, I got the zoo, I got the beach, I got ball game. It's like there's something every weekend and you cannot get bored.
No.
The only thing I will say, the downside is that, yes, there's going to be a little bit more traffic as people are coming to those areas. We're going to start seeing, you know, some of those traffic woes. Like, you know, I feel like we're always under construction, but that's something that's always happened with Tampa, because Tampa's always been growing.
Yeah. But if you pay attention, you know, if you look around, you see that I think Tampa is trying to stay ahead of the curve because they're doing a lot of infrastructure. They're building a lot of new roads, a lot of new highways, a lot of new access to kind of accommodate for the influx of people coming down here and preparing itself for that influx of people moving into Tampa, because Tampa has become very, very popular.
Yeah. And in that migration study, it showed that New York, everybody's like, oh, New York, go back to where you came from, right?
Don't New York my Florida.
Don't New York my Florida. Listen, that article was funny. It said that New York led the way for the last 20 years.
That's right.
As far as migration, they're the number one state. It hasn't changed. Then you have Philadelphia. You've got Michigan. You've got New Jersey. You've got Colorado, Texas. You've got a lot of places that are coming here. You know, you're going to see a lot of those northern cities, especially eastern. I mean, yes, we have California, but believe it or not as much. You're going to have more of the northeastern, you know, or Midwestern. Sometimes Colorado actually has a lot. I don't know why, but escaping the snow, I guess, right? Looking for the sunny dream. But what I'm seeing is that these are not new patterns. They're just they were just put on steroids a little bit from COVID. What we're seeing and what is expected in 24 here is that growth is actually slowing. Okay.
It is.
It's still coming. They're still coming, but it's slowing down. What people don't realize is because of all these things and the growth issues, and I know this is where a lot of the moans come, people also leave.
That's right.
We have people that are leaving as well for just something different, you know, and that's okay too. But one thing I've noticed with those people coming in, right, from Illinois, from DMV area, from New York, they're used to living in these bigger metros.
Right.
They don't live in the city.
No.
They live on the outskirts. Like I just helped somebody from Chicago, like, oh, I'm from the Naperville area or the DMV area. Yeah, we're 30, 45 minutes outside the city. We don't want to be in the city.
No, but 35, 40 minutes is not even a long distance to be, you know, connected to everything, have everything at your finger. The beaches are 45 minutes, downtown is 30 minutes, depending on where you live. Actually, it's 30 minutes from anywhere.
Yeah. So what we're seeing is a lot of folks that are coming in. It's funny as it is. I'd say less than 10% are saying, hey, I want to live in the city.
No.
Everybody wants to go to our suburbs, which is why I push so much content out there for you guys with the suburbs. Everybody wants to be in the suburbs. And, you know, our suburbs are on fire right now. And I think they're doing a good job.
Yes.
With the developments, these master plan communities. I mean, we talk about Epperson. If you folks have seen those lagoon communities, or if you've seen some of those with golf cart trails and playgrounds for the kids.
Communities are awesome.
Yeah, with the playgrounds, because now you have bikeability, walkability. You have amenities within the neighborhood that you may not want to leave.
No,
you don't need to come to downtown every weekend.
And with that said, a lot of people who are coming to Tampa from other cities, they kind of want a little room to stretch out a little bit, you know, especially since COVID, they felt a little cramped, especially like places like New York where you were trapped in a building. And when they come down here, they look to Western Chapel and they're like, this is great. I want to be there, you know, because you have everything's real nearby. You have the space and, you know, it just doesn't give you that confinement feel by being, you know, just 30, 25 minutes out from the city. But if you want to go to the city, you're there. You can.
And so like when we talk about places like, let's just call it Wested Chapel, #1 suburb right now. Why? Because it has all of the amenities, all the shopping. I mean, their malls are better than our malls. Sometimes we go out there to shop because they have the
outlet malls.
The outlet malls.
A lot of restaurants.
Yeah, man. Breweries.
The outdoor mall, which I think is an inside out mall, which is great.
Absolutely. Inside out mall. There you go. Fix that shirt. No. So So essentially, it's just saying, hey, listen, these suburbs are the way that they're developing them, the way they're building them. They have folks that are moving here and in mind, and it's helping in a way alleviate that congestion in the city because they're out there doing their own thing.
Yeah.
There's people that are like, oh man, I went to Wesley Chapel. I've been here. I haven't left for 3 weeks. Why? Because
everything's there.
My son plays soccer here, or we went to the brewery and the comedy club, and then we went here, there. Not every suburb is like that, which is a good thing, by the way.
No,
not everybody wants Wesley Chapel. Sometimes they're like, I want Apollo Beach. I want to have access to boating and beach in the bay because that's my thing. Or I want to go down to Parrish right now is exploding with development because, I had a New York cop. There we go, New York, right?
New York.
I had a New York cop that said, man, love where I came from, but it's changed and I want something different. Get me out of here. I want peace and quiet. I want to grill in my backyard and I want to stay with my wife. He's retiring cop. And then when I want to go into the city, I don't mind the drive because it's not going to be all the time. What he loved about that Parrish area is that he had access to Sarasota, 35 minutes to St. Pete, 45 minutes to Tampa.
Right.
He had 3 major cities within reach, but then when he wanted it nice and quiet and calm, he had his own spot. So definitely more of an underdeveloped suburb, but it's coming up. It's picking up speed. I actually think it could be the next Wesley Chapel, but that'll be another 5 to 10 years.
Gives you the advantage of being Bruce Wayne during the day and Batman at night.
There you go. Exactly. So yeah, I think what we're seeing is a lot of the suburbs. I really noticed this too about the inventory of the homes. We just had the parade of homes come through here in March. So if you folks missed it, that's okay. It's only 2 weeks long, but they set up a really nice itinerary and you guys can reach out to us. We can actually send you that itinerary. What it is it's a guide that takes you through about 57 models.
All the new constructions, right?
That's right. All the different builders, all the different areas, all the different models. So if you're like, oh, I like this model, where do I go? Because each builder in each community only have 1 or 2 models to walk through that are furnished.
And I think it's an advantage for people who are coming from out of town, who all they know is Tampa or only heard of Wesley Chapel. It gives you the opportunity to see all the little towns around the area and explore that with the new construction and say, hey, I never thought about Riverview. I never thought about Brandon. I didn't think about this area. Let's go check it out. And because they do it so beautifully, you're able to kind of do a tour and they really do line it up really well.
Yeah. But, and again, it's nice because we talk about affordability. And I know that it doesn't always check the box for everybody because affordability looks different depending on where you're coming from. Like
it's all relative.
You're coming from like Chicago. Affordability is going to look different than Mobile, Alabama. Right. And folks, Tampa's always been known. Kind of flew under the radar, right? We were a big metro, but we were kind of affordable. Now that inflation happened and everybody feels it, it's not like it's just us. The problem is that we rose a lot more than other people. We rose, faster. So Tampa now is on par with the size of metro it is. Like when you compare it to Nashville, Austin, Raleigh, these other, what is it? I said Nashville, Austin,
Raleigh.
I said Raleigh. It's like an echo in here.
Yeah.
When you see those different cities that we're in, we're the 16th largest city in the country. Okay. Metro in the country. We are on par with the national average, just a hair over the national average as far as cost of living.
Did you ever think we'll be the biggest, one of the 16 size cities 20 years ago?
Well, the fact is that we were. That's the thing is we were that large, but we flew under the radar.
Yeah.
Because everybody skipped out and they went to the beaches or they went somewhere else. We never had that issue, right? But what people don't realize now is that we also have a changing atmosphere. Like Forbes in 2021 came out with an article naming us the emerging tech city in the entire country, bigger than Austin.
Silicon Valley.
Yeah. So we have 1/3 of all tech jobs in Florida.
Tampa,
No, in Florida, right? So what does that create? It makes our cost of living went up. But I mean, we have a massive sector that if you know IT, they make some pretty good money.
Yeah.
Where it used to just be hospitality and tourism. Now it's medical, professional services. We've got Fortune 500 companies here that are bringing people, professionals here. Across the board, is our income skyrocketing? No, but it's definitely going up at a faster pace than it was because it's injecting new industries here.
Well, it's going to build more opportunity for people. It's more opportunity because with that comes more jobs, higher paying jobs. So I think it's inevitable that, we're going to catch up.
It's inevitable, but it's always the slowest thing to catch up because let's just say businesses want to make theirs before they hand it out.
That's right.
So It's coming. The jobs are coming. I mean, the jobs are here, really. They're expanding. And I love that Tampa's putting emphasis. I know this we weren't going down the job route, but sometimes these podcasts take us there. They are putting a lot of emphasis, the city, on startup, companies. They're putting it on young professionals, small businesses. They're actually giving them resources to help them along.
They're inviting talent.
Yes, and they want to because they want to grow that. And they know that small businesses is the foundation of Tampa, really.
That's right.
Fortune 500 companies are good, but we don't want to only rely on that, right?
Small business. You still want the mom and pop shops. They give that feel to the community where, they know you by name, and it's really good.
Absolutely. So, but going back to those new developments, because I know we started off with the ADU properties talking about affordable housing. Average household in Florida now, or in Tampa, I'm sorry, is over $400,000.
Yeah.
Okay. That's gone up. That's not exactly affordable for everybody.
No.
But that's our baseline number. So when I say affordable, 400 or under 400, that's affordable. I'm not saying 800, right?
Well, but especially for the locals, it's a big shock.
It's a big shock for most. So, but for those of you coming here, right, you can spend $400,000 on a 1950s home in the middle of the city. Or you can go out to the suburbs and spend $400,000 down, and we can get you a brand new 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom house.
Beautiful homes.
And, is it, luxury living? No, but you're in this awesome community with a lagoon, or with, if lagoon's not your style, there's obviously
trails and parks.
Yes.
And all the outdoor activities, everything that comes with that. And it gives you the opportunity to enjoy what Florida is really good for.
Yes. To unwind, have all the amenities, everything at your fingertips. We have to be careful as realtors throwing around the word safe. But what I envision of safe, like I have a lot of people come here and say, I need a gated community. Yeah. It's like, man, if you look around, you've got grandmas walking Yorkies, and you got, nannies pushing babies.
That's right.
When I feel that, when I look around, I'm just like, it doesn't get much safer than this. Like I have that. I don't look over my shoulder in the suburbs or those kind of things. I mean, for the most part, even in downtown, I don't. But
I don't even give it a second thought sometimes.
Yeah. So looking at those suburbs, the Parade of Homes, folks, if you ever need a list of new construction, definitely reach out to us. There are tons of new construction options. And what we really try to do with people when you guys call in is, we try to sit there and plan with you. We try to understand what your lifestyle is like, because we just jumped around. We talked about ADU living, and some people might be like, oh, I don't want that.
Well, but I think the beauty of it is there's a little bit of everything for everybody. We just got to see what is it that makes you tick? What is, what do you like? Are you an outdoor person? Do you like are you an urbanite? Are you more of a suburbanite? So we're able to show you a bit of everything that can matches your lifestyle.
Yeah. Slow town living. I love Dunedin, man. Dunedin, you're right down to the beach, right, Honeymoon Island. You've got the downtown, street area.
That's right.
You've got Carrollwood. My mom lives in Carrollwood. So you have that old town, 1970s.
I'm glad you said that, because the good thing about Tampa is every little town has its own little, I don't know, yo no sé quoi.
It's like a personality to it. It's unique. Yeah.
You go to St. Pete, it's different. You go to downtown, Tampa is different.
Yep.
Dunedin is different.
Yep.
You have it's very mix of a lot of different cultures in different places that you can enjoy that.
Yep.
If you know what I'm saying.
And that's why when we work with people, we're always talking about lifestyle. What's important to you? Everybody kind of flies in. They have this idea like, I want to be next to the beach. I want 30 minutes from the beach. It's like, whoa. Even if you're in Tampa,
you're 20 minutes from the beach.
Well, I'd even say 35 just from being right in the city. If you catch the bridges that take you over.
That's right.
And then if you live like in Wesley Chapel, you're at least an hour.
That's right.
But the way locals do the beach here is we get a beach place like 4th of July or the weekend, right? Everybody's at the beach. Or you get like a weekend or even a week-long rental, and you totally unwind. And then every now and then, maybe every other month when you want to go to the beach for the day, you do. But, lugging all that stuff down there for an afternoon and coming back, it doesn't matter if you're 20 minutes or 40 minutes away.
It's there.
If you're doing it every other month or whenever you want, then it's more important to be somewhere near the things that you do on a weekly basis.
Correct.
Do you work at the airport? Do you work downtown? Do you need to go there often? Or do you like to? Do you need shopping nearby, or school's important? All of those things formulate what's the best area for you. And that's what Lennon and my team, those are things that we can talk you through and help you understand, along with finding the right home, finding the affordability, being near and understanding some of these newer developments that you might really want to live close to. And that's the beauty of all this. So I hope today's information was helpful for you. Affordable housing, hopefully it's coming. We got the Parade of Homes, or we've got a ton of new constructions that we can show you. So you have options, especially if you like newer homes. And there's a ton of new developments splashing into the city that just make it an even better place to live, gives us more fun. And, you know, and when, nobody's going to complain about the new shiny object. So guys, until that next video, please stick with us. Go to my channel, check it out. You know, follow us on the main channel and stick with us.